All right, my name is Rebecca, and today I'm here with Roelof from the Netherlands. Roelof, would you just say your full name for us?
Yes, my name is Roelof Henk Kuiken.
Thank you. Roelof is my teammate, um, and we are working on a group project together. And today we are going to explore Roelof's highest expression and what that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll let you just start, Roelof. Where would you like to go today?
Um, well, just some qualities I have that are a foundation for my highest expression is listening in the first place and just holding space. So that got me thinking, um, and I want to turn that into something useful. So I want to get into to coaching. So that's what I've been thinking about lately, and I'm taking steps to go that way.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And to give background for people who aren't familiar, the team that Roelof and I are working on is an international team, and it is our goal. We actually came up with our vision statement today. It's not set in stone, but our vision is we envision a world where every human is free to embody and explore their own highest expression. And our tentative mission statement at this point is that we connect individuals to integrated healing services around mind, body, spirit, and community to facilitate expansion into each person's highest expression. And what we're working on is really creating an international portal, an online virtual portal where people, no matter where they are in the world and no matter what their circumstances, can come and connect to healers, healing services, education, community support, um, as well as personal development kind of things, right? And so, yes, Roelof is working on his ability to support the community through
Yeah.
having lived his own experience, right? Through
Hmm.
mental health challenges and
Yeah.
mental health systems. Yeah. Uh,
Absolutely.
yes, which I have experience with as well. And that's kind of one of our core things as a team. Um, Roelof, could you explain for the audience who might not be familiar with kind of our vocabulary, what does it mean to hold space?
What it means to hold space. Um, for me, it means that you're fully present in the moment with the person you're with or the persons you're with, so that there is space for them to um, just speak their mind or speak their heart. It just, yeah,
Right. And so holding space is kind of the core method, I guess, around the listening services
yeah,
that we're looking to provide, where we're not providing advice, we're not providing intellectual feedback, we're not providing, therapy, but what we're doing is we're able to listen to a person and allow for them to just express whatever it is they're going through and whatever they need to express while being able to listen and sometimes, oftentimes, reflect. And I think the goal behind that is so that the person begins to align their words with their internal experience in a supported and non-judgmental place.
Yeah, I think we basically play a kind of mirror role. We just hold up a mirror and people talk into the mirror, and then we say, if I'm correct, I see this. And we just mirror it back to them, and they can do with that whatever they want.
Yeah. So yes, and your Enneagram number is the 9. You are the peacemaker.
Yes.
And the
Peacekeeper.
peacemaker,
Is it peacekeeper or is it peacemaker?
I think it's peacemaker, but I also know that there are different terms for each number. So
Yeah,
the number is more important than the term, but one of the characteristics of this number is that people tend to come to you for help. People feel
yeah,
very safe and secure and comfortable to come and tell you their problems and tell you what's going on. Do you feel this is a pattern in your life?
absolutely. I mean, I meet strangers, and within minutes they tell me like things that you only would tell dear friends or very trusted friends. Um, and I'm a safe space, so it's safe with me. You can share it, and I won't tell a soul about it. But still, I personally don't do that with everybody because there has to be some rapport first for me, some mutual understanding, some respect. I have to build some trust with a person before I do that. But I do attract people who just tell me uh, secrets and other things are just problems uh, that not everybody would just share right away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do have a very safe energy, and you're also typically very, it seems like you're in a place of contentment most of the time. Like, I don't think I've ever witnessed you being disturbed or anxious, or, I mean, I'm sure you feel those things sometimes, but in general, your demeanor is very calm and very centered, and you generally seem very happy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm anxious sometimes or a bit stressed, but that's really fleeting. So yeah, basically, I've changed my attitude in the last years to just be very grateful for the things I have. So, and if I just look around me, I have everything I want in abundance. I've got some money in the bank. I've got books in my shelves. I've got food in my fridge. Everything I need is it's right here. And if I want to go somewhere, I can step in my car and I can drive basically where I want to go. So life's good.
Great. Can I ask you what you do for a profession or for your living? What kind
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. At the moment, I'm working for a big Dutch insurance company, and actually, it's a big Dutch insurance company owned by the biggest insurance company, which has multiple brands, and I do customer service
Okay.
with
And
some sales involved.
okay. And what is there any kind of do you have any kind of educational background or certificates or anything like that?
Yeah, I've of course done secondary school, and after that, I've done trade school, or yeah, entrepreneur, um, that kind of vocational education. And after that, I never really knew what I wanted because it didn't excite me much. Most of the normal things, and I um, didn't really see myself um, doing a particular job. So after I finished that entrepreneur vocational school, I did some other stuff. I've done some teacher training for a couple of years. So I've been in front of classes of kids, and that was fun to some extent. With some classes, it went, or with some pupils, it went really, students, it's just how you want to call them. It went really well, and other groups, it was a bit difficult. Um, but it was an interesting experience, and I did learn a lot about presenting myself and public speaking or speaking in front of groups and things like that. So I'm comfortable with that. And after that, um, yeah, a stressful period happened, and that led to mental breakdown and problems in that field. So then I had some odd jobs.
Can you tell me when you had your first mental, what you called breakdown? Can you tell me a little bit about it? What was happening?
What was happening? It was late 2012, and at a certain moment, my energy went up and up and up, and I began talking really fast, and at a certain moment, my heart rate and my heartbeat was so um, intense that my girlfriend at the time could feel my heartbeat through the mattress.
Mm.
So that was really weird. And then in at that time I was using a medicine for ADD,
Mm.
which I do not think I have, but my girlfriend at the time was convinced I had it, so she convinced me. Uh, Not a really good time, but I stopped using those medications, and then the heart palpitations got less, but still I went up in energy, and then I kind of um, spun out of control, if you see it, uh, on a mental level. Um, yeah, so that was an interesting experience, um, because it was a different level of awareness as well, um, a different state of being. Um, and of course, the psychiatry field sees that as a mental breakdown or a disorder. And in some cases, it of course is, but in other cases, it can be something else as well. And later, I had some cases of psychosis as well. Um, and I read about it a while ago. That can be that there has just been that you've gone against your nature for too long, so that your psyche pushes that out to just get you to change, to see your um, shadows, or whatever you want to call it, the sides of yourself you don't want to look at. So I guess that happened.
Can you describe a little bit more about what was going on inside your mind during these time periods where you were considered to be clinically psychotic? Can you tell us kind of the nature of your, or what was the predominant thinking going on?
The predominant thinking going on. I mean, I had this rush of energy, and I see it as I was in a bit of a lucid state, so it felt kind of like a dream, but I knew it was happening for real. I'm not going into detail of all the things that happen in those states, um, because that can be pretty confrontational.
Okay, fair enough. Um, then let me ask you this. Was there anything that you took from these experiences that you were able to integrate into your life once you were no longer in that state of mind?
Um, yeah, I mean, before this all happened, I was a dreamer. I've always been a dreamer since I was a little boy. I was always daydreaming and just imagining things, and that's wonderful. I mean, I think that's the natural state of a human being. Uh, less thinking, more being, and less doing and more just being and imagining, playing, playfulness. Um, and I think I got that back because of that, and a connection to things, um, like a better connection to my soul, because I had been ignoring parts of myself in that respect. I was in a relationship I wasn't happy in, and I was just ignoring that fact for a couple of years, and stuff like that.
That is interesting. I can relate in the sense that for me, when I had my episodes, and I wasn't fully conscious of it at the time, but my life and the circumstances of my life were not in alignment with my true self. So, would it be fair to say, in response to what you were talking about before, as far as the psychosis kind of pushing out the things from our shadow, etc., that the idea is that sometimes the quote unquote mental breakdown, it's our psyche's way of communicating to us that we're not living in alignment with who we really are.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. Um, it's like if something, it's like an egg. If there's a chicken and an egg and it breaks from the inside out, then it creates life. Uh, and I think depression. I think Jim Carrey said it as well. It's just living against your nature, not being who you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Let me ask you, what has helped you the most in terms of your recovery process?
What has helped me the most? Being alone. Um, just taking time to sit with myself, sit with the emotions, sit with everything, just um, analyzing it, seeing it, and then at a certain point accepting it for what it is, and then moving on. So being a solitude, yeah,
Interesting. So, kind of like if I think of the archetypal journey displayed in tarot, I think of the hermit who is
yeah,
who is kind of doing his own inner journey.
introspection,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
yeah,
And I think that's really valuable. That it's interesting too because as much there is a little bit of a dichotomous kind of a paradox because humans do need to feel connected to each other.
Yeah.
And a lot of people suffer in loneliness, and a lot of people are starving to be in partnerships and relationships. But there is absolutely something so beautiful and wonderful about having that intimate relationship with yourself. And when life affords you the time to be alone, I would wish and hope that more people would see that as a gift
Yeah.
rather than something they are so hoping to break out of as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I've taken myself on dinner dates. Yeah, really. I just genuinely enjoy my own company. I'm always in my own company, so I better enjoy my being with myself. So I always was kind of my mom was telling me this earlier today. She told me you were always different than your older brother and your younger sister. Uh, when they came from school, they always wanted to tell what happened at school, and we had to ask you how was school. And I was just in my room a lot of the time because I just liked to be alone, and I could fantasize and do stuff I liked myself, read and just whatever I thought of. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that shows very clearly to me, just in interacting with you, you have just such a sense of comfortability. Like you just feel like you're very comfortable and you're not, um, how do you say it? Like you're not really seeking anything outside of your present moment. And that's kind of a very, very attractive quality, to be honest. That actually brings me into the concept of seeing as our group is, we're 5 women, and
Yeah.
you
And
are
me.
the only male.
Hmm.
And within our groups, we often talk about the divine masculine and the divine feminine.
Yeah.
And we do understand, each of us do understand that the divine masculine, the divine feminine are energies that exist in all people, in all genders, whether those genders are chosen or assigned.
Hmm.
Um, and so, even as a woman, I have the divine masculine inside of my energy.
Yeah.
But Roelof, because you're a man, um, you really do embody a lot of the divine masculine in your expression in terms of just showing up as a man in the world. And I'd like to know what you think about that and maybe a little of, I don't know, your process or journey behind that.
Um, yeah, that's an interesting question. I think it has to do with the kind of cultural background and family I come from. Because my family, my dad and my grandfather and my other grandfather, um, if they made a deal with you, if they made an arrangement with you, they would stick to it. So for me, it's just the same. Um, so that comes very natural because it's just the example I always got.
The reliability.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I've always been fascinated with the feminine, the female form physically, but as well what's inside their hearts and everything. That's always been very interesting to me. So from a young age, I've always um, seen it from the perspective. A lot of men um, they want the perfect woman to come to them, Um, but I see it the other way around. I want to be the perfect guy for a woman, and
Mhm.
then she will come to me. So I've always been looking at how can I be a good man for the best man I can be, basically.
That's wonderful, honestly, and refreshing. And
Yeah,
it sounds very simple, but
yeah,
very few people are doing that. If we show up and we are our best selves, then by natural law alone, we will attract the best people, right? Yeah.
yeah.
And so many people are so dissatisfied with their internal states and so dissatisfied with their own energy and can't sit still in it. And
Hmm.
they're so seeking for another person outside of themselves to fill them up. And I think that is something about you that I do completely appreciate because even without knowing your relationship status, um, which I think you're in a relationship now, I think you said that, but this is kind
Yeah.
of a new relationship, am I right?
Now it's been going on for a couple of months. Actually, it is a longer relationship, but we've gotten together officially recently, a couple of months ago, and we have yet to meet physically.
Oh, okay. Well, it's wonderful to because relationships are require care, require feeding, and require watering. And
Yeah,
you don't just jump into it and with
no, no,
all abandon is getting to know each other. And but yeah, I think even when I first met you, you were single, I believe.
yeah. It was just about that period that we made it official.
Okay. And then
Yeah,
um but I love your ability to be, I guess, that independence that you have, the emotional independence, meaning that you are sustained all by yourself. And so
yeah.
your relationship is not created out of a dependency. Your
No,
rela-
that's absolutely true. Um, I've had long periods of just being single, contented, just being contented and being single.
yeah, and it shows up, and I think it shows that divine masculine energy. At least it does for me. That you kind of
Thank you.
glow with, the like you're kind of like the happy Buddha, just smile. Like
Yeah,
it's really refreshing, and yeah, I'm excited to see you stepping into your coaching role. And I'd be excited to see you coaching men around their own divine masculinity and becoming the best man they can be and improving relationships that way.
yeah. That's funny you say that because I was talking with Emily, another group member, another team member, about that a few weeks ago. I came across a image on Facebook that said there are more and more empowered women, but who is helping the men or who is preparing the men to deal with those women? And
And
I think that would be a very interesting field to coach in.
yes, and to be honest, there's not a lot of organization, effort, or energy around that.
No,
There are divine feminine groups everywhere you look,
yeah,
right? And the divine masculine, when we start to talk about it, it's almost like, oh, we just add that terminology because we know it exists, but nobody really spends time exploring what it is and what it looks like.
hmm,
Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. Um, I'm just going to share a little bit about me, my personal. So I am married, which is unfortunately I have to announce all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But um, when we did our archetype event, one of my strongest archetypes is Wendy from Peter Pan. And if you're familiar, Peter brings her to the Lost Boys. Have you seen the movie, the Disney Peter
It's
Pan,
been
for a
it's
long
been
time?
a while. It's been a while.
So Peter brings Wendy to the Lost Boys, and she's looking at all the wild lost boys,
Yeah.
and Wendy wants to know where is their mother. And Peter
Right.
Pan laughs and says, "What? They don't have a mother." And she says, "What? They don't have a mother? Oh my gosh." And Peter says, "You'll be their mother." And then he just kind of like trips off, and she's there. And so she starts telling them stories and tucking them into bed. And, they're just a bunch of wild little lost boys. But I find myself in her role a lot,
Yeah.
especially working with adolescents in a locked psychiatric ward with my male patients there, and sometimes with my male staff members as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a lot of men, even grown men, that are still these wild lost boys who don't have a mother.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that it's idealize the idea of being the perpetual mother. Sometimes I don't think that's healthy. But Wendy is still a child, and I don't know. I just think that there's so much lost, so many lost boys in the world, and it'd be nice to see them have be nurtured, be cared for, and be able to interact with the divine feminine in
Yeah.
healthy ways where they can feel nurtured and supported, but without it being dependent on this sexual dynamic all the time.
I think it has a lot to do with social and media conditioning. Um, that's geared a lot to towards sex, uh, and that has its influence. Um, and a lot of men um, just stay in that very primal energy, and they can't seem to get out of that.
What would be your words of wisdom to a single man who is desperate for a female relationship?
I mean, everything is energy. So if you just take a specific person or just a random person and have sex with him or her, you're giving away your energy. You're forming a bond, and you're merging into one, and then you transfer energy in um, that act. So you should always be conscious of that. I think that would be my first advice. But how to overcome it? That's a good question. I think you should just realize that you can channel your energy differently. So go and create things, whatever it is. Uh, it's your creative energy center where the sexual energy comes from as well. So try and create and just channel it differently.
So having more awareness about your own energy, being more careful about who
Giving
you
away.
decide to exchange that with,
Yes.
and then using creativity to release the primal urges, desires, compulsions, etc. If I'm not putting words in your mouth.
No, that sounds about right.
Yeah. And I've noticed, for myself, I'm always attracted to creative people.
Yeah.
And so it might have that added benefit that once you start creating, you might attract people who resonate with your energy.
Yeah, I mean, being creative can be really attractive, be it music or art or books, writing, poetry, whatever it is. It, if somebody has skills like that, that is attractive. Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
And if you put your energy in those kind of skills, that help you. You could even monetize them in some cases. Not everybody does that successfully, and you can just do it for fun, of course. It's a great way uh, to do it recreationally. There's a
And in our
word
group,
in it again.
say that again because we lost the sound for a second.
I said you can create things, and in some cases you can monetize them. Not everybody can do that successfully. But then just do it for fun, recreationally. The word create is in the middle.
Recreation, creation, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah,
Recreation, yeah. Um, and we talk about creative expression a lot in our team, and that's a very important aspect for us because we believe that it's through creative expression that we can often express the things that we aren't able to find words for, or we can express things that seem like they don't fit in the more practical aspects of our lives. And creative expression can help anyone who's suffering with mental or even physical or spiritual problems to channel that energy outside of themselves. But in terms of creating or in terms of putting energy out there in hopes of getting a relationship, your creative expression can be that externalization of who you are, because what we look like on the outside and in our bodies is only a tiny fraction of what we are on the inside. And so
totally.
if you want people to know more about you and get a better feel for who you are and what you're about, creative expression is the perfect place to do that.
Yeah, and I mean in communication as well. It's not only about the words that you say, but it's about tonality and it's about body language if you're in the same room with somebody. And that all counts as how you present yourself. If you're like this and you walk into a room, nobody's gonna notice you. But if you do this and you walk into the room like I'm the king, it's very different. And yeah, and the power of creation, highest expression, everything starts with a thought, right? I mean, the couch I'm sitting on, somebody thought of creating this couch, and now I'm sitting on a couch. And everything we see around this building I'm in, the building you're in, it was a thought before it became reality.
Right.
So so that's the power of imagination that we humans utilize to produce and create uh, actually everything, our realities.
Absolutely. I was sharing with a few people the concept that every single life is its own masterpiece. That our life, no matter how troubling or disturbed or tormented it might be, it is
Mm-hmm.
our own art piece.
Yeah,
And when we recognize ourselves as the artist within our life, as the master creator, as the one who's directing the manifestation around us,
yeah.
then we find our power and we begin to be able to shift what the art looks like.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's like you're becoming the director instead of just the player of the flute.
Yeah, you're no longer just the
the conductor of the whole orchestra instead of the,
right.
or even you could even look at it broader. You just become all the musical notes that swirl around in.
Sure. Or if you imagine that, if you think that when you're born you were handed a script and this is what you have to say, versus throw that away and now you're going to write your own
Yeah,
your own
yeah,
script.
yeah. Or you just sing your own song, or you paint your own painting. Yeah, whatever works best for you. But yes, you are the creator.
Mhm. Yeah. It's so fun to work with people who have already found themselves in these kinds of, in this space of being
Hmm.
and allowing highest expression to come through. It just feels really good. Um, what is there anything that you think, tell me about what you think you might need, or how you feel you can progress, kind of where do you see yourself in your journey? So if we make the analogy again to the hero's journey, like where do you see yourself in the present and where do you hope to get to?
Uh, if I refer to the hero's journey, there's a certain point that they get into the other world where all the battles are going to be fought and stuff like that, and they're gathering allies. The allies are in place, but I think I should be trusting on my allies a bit more and just asking them to help me along. And um, in a practical sense, that just looks like me scheduling things, planning things, and then other people um, checking me on progress.
So that brings me back to your 9 Enneagram number. What I learned yesterday um, his name is Joe Filippi. I don't know if I'm saying it right. In his class
Feedback? Yeah,
on the Enneagram encounters, is that when the 9 is integrated and the 9 is their best self, the 9 becomes a great achiever of things.
yeah,
And because the 9 all by itself, if it's in discriminate, and I'm sorry, if it's in disintegration, procrastinates, has a
yeah,
hard time moving forward, can get stuck in inertia, um, you know, doesn't get a lot of the fire under your ass, so to speak,
yeah.
about movement.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that. I am a Sagittarius, so I am a fire sign, so that there is fire. But on the other hand, I just like to explore everything, and that can look like I'm reading 5 books at one time, and I have 50 tabs open on my computer to things to look at, and I never get round to looking at everything, or reading, or finishing all the books I'm reading, or finishing all the projects I'm working on, and that's I really need to. Uh, yeah, I need some help just clearing a path and focusing on it.
Yeah. And so when the 9 is very integrated, it looks like a very healthy 3 on the Enneagram. But we can talk about that a little more. But the 9s have incredible potential to do big things.
Yeah,
That's the challenge, is that making that movement, taking that organized action and bringing things into fruition. So I
yeah,
think that's part of what we're doing as a team, all of us together, and that's why the allies help, because we
yeah,
keep each other accountable, and we also rely on the skills of the more organized members of the team who are naturally inclined to
yeah,
be the task finishers and the organizers and the structure, um, facilitators. So
yeah.
that's
Keeping tabs on everything.
that's the beauty of having a team where everyone comes together with their different skills and different strengths and helping out. So, yeah. All right. Well, I think we've been on for a bit. So, is there any last thoughts or any questions you have for me or anything else you want to get out of this discussion?
Um, no, I guess that would conclude it.
All right, Roelof. Well, it's lovely to see you, and thank you so much for being on my team. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you too.
All right. You have a good evening.
Yes, you have a nice day.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.